The instant the padlock snapped shut, the whole dock fell dead quiet. Music stopped mid-beat, beer cans froze in hands, and a half-inflated flamingo float bumped awkwardly against a piling like it wished it could disappear. On the far side of the Marina gate, 15 baffled strangers gawked at me while I slipped the key into my pocket. Behind me, the brand-new reflective red sign glowed accusingly. Marina closed after 10 p.m. Residents and registered guests only. Time, 10:07. A guy wearing a backwards hat scoffed. "Bro, you can't lock us out," a woman chimed in. "This whole marina is common property." I jerked a thumb toward the neatly lined townhomes along the boardwalk. "You don't live here. You aren't registered guests, which means you're technically trespassing." The kid opened his mouth to object trite as the Subaru pulled in. There is always a Subaru. It skidded into the gravel like a stunt car audition, practically sideways before coming to a stop. The door flew open, and out charged Linda Markham, president of the Blue Heron Harbor HOA. Wearing a navy windbreaker with board member embroidered across it like a military insignia, her eyes locked onto the chain I'd wrapped around the marina gate. "Caleb," she shrieked, her voice bouncing across the lake. "You unlock that this instant." "Nope," I said. "UN Biota." Frand, Linzer, trembling, binder tucked under one arm, phone gripped in the other. "You do not have the authority to lock a shared amenity or kick out my invited guests?" she barked. "This is common HOA property. You are interfering with official operations." I nodded toward the group of 20-somethings in tank tops. "Your invited guests. You mean the people paying you on Venmo?" Backwards cap guy shifted nervously. Linda's face went crimson. "You've just committed a severe violation," she spat. "And when the sheriff arrives, you're going to learn what civil liability looks like." I leaned casually on the fence, completely calm. "Funny," I said, "because I'm pretty sure you're about to learn that first." 6 months earlier, all I'd wanted was some peace. At 36, I was a mechanical engineer with odd work hours and exactly 3 hobbies: quiet garage projects, late-night video games, and taking my old fishing skiff out when the lake was perfectly still. So I bought a 3-story townhome in Blue Heron Harbor, or lakeside development with a private marina, tucked in a town that sounded like a brochure writer invented it. Mallard Cove, North Carolina. The brochure had promised low-maintenance living, peaceful waterfront vibes, and a secure residents-only marina with assigned slips. The realtor had added, "The HOA here is very active. Keeps things really nice." Active turned out to mean Linda Markham. Linda was in her late 40s, forever wearing a visor, recently retired from regional HR, and carried herself like someone who had never sat in a chair without silently evaluating it. She treated the HOA as a personal empire, and the marina as her throne room. She didn't boat. She didn't even like water. But she adored phrases like amenity stewardship, tapping laminated rule sheets with her French manicured nails, and reminding everyone that technically, the HOA owns all dock structures. First, I hardly dealt with her. I paid dues, kept my place tidy, offered the occasional polite nod, and used my assigned slip as intended. The community felt peaceful. Lake sunrises, calling loons, neighbors who mostly worked long hours and kept to themselves. Then summer arrived. So did the guests. The first warning sign appeared on a June Saturday at 7 a.m., coffee in hand. Tackle box in the other, I walked to the marina for a quiet morning on the water. My boat wasn't alone. 3 complete strangers were sitting inside it, cooler open mid-conversation. I said, "Can I help you?" "This slip was open," one replied, tightening a life vest. "We're with her group." "Her who?" "Linda," he said like it was obvious. I stared at them. Then, at the clear slip 12, Rios stenciled on the dock, then at the covenants I'd memorized. That was warning sign number 1. Warning sign 2 happened 2 weeks later. I got home from a weekend trip to find beer cans in my boat, someone's melted flip-flop fused to the deck, and a suspicious puddle I refused to analyze. I emailed the HOA board. "Naturally," Linda replied. "Hi, Caleb. we've been piloting a more flexible, community-forward Marina usage model. Because the slips are common property under HOA management, we sometimes reassign usage during peak periods. Rest assured, your property is our priority. Best Linda reread it, then checked the covenants. Slips were assigned exclusively. No subleasing. Guests must be accompanied by a resident. Quiet hours, 10 p.m. - 7 a.m. I printed that page and taped it inside my kitchen cabinet over the next month. The pattern became obvious. Random people showing up at the gate saying, "Linda said you'd give us the code." Out-of-state license plates filling the Marina lot every weekend. Groups in matching Lake Trip 2025. Shirts posing with the HOA sign. When I questioned it, Linda chirped about shared amenities, community culture, and my favorite, "You don't own the water, Caleb." Then came the overheard conversation. I was returning from a run when I caught Linda by the pool speaking to a sunburned couple. "No, it's simple," she explained. "You send a deposit to my Venmo, I add you as my registered guests for the weekend, and you get Marina access. HOA doesn't allow short-term rentals, so we call it an amenity sponsorship. Much cheaper than dry storage." I kept jogging, but my brain froze. Venmo, guests. Sponsorship later that night, I checked the community website. The guest contact number went straight to Linda. That evening, around 11:30 p.m., I walked to the Marina to clear my head. The closed at 10 inches sign had vanished. The gate was propped open with a rock. Music blasted from a Bluetooth speaker. Drunk strangers did cannonballs into the dark water like it was a public party zone. That's when I started recording everything. Screenshots of Airbnb posts advertising private Marina access message Linda. Photos of strangers using the docks past midnight. Videos of noise echoing across the lake on Tuesday nights. For a quiet guy. I was building a very loud paper trail. The breaking point came the Saturday of 4th of July weekend. By 9:45 p.m., the Marina looked like a disaster flyer. More than 20 non-residents on the docks. 2 overloaded pontoon boats stacked 3 wide in a single slip. Kids sprinting barefoot across wet boards. Someone trying to light a sparkler on the fuel dock. I watched from my balcony, jaw tight. Then my phone buzzed. "Jake, my next-door neighbor. Dude, is this allowed? The baby's been woken up 3 times. I replied, "Nope." I sent one more message to the county's Marine Safety Lake Patrol number. Attached a photo and caption, "Private HOA Marina. Not commercial. Overcapacity, minors drinking, fireworks on dock, HOA president selling access." Then I headed downstairs. The Marina gate was, of course, wide open. The original lock labeled "Residents Only" dangled uselessly, keyhole jammed with gum. I sighed, cracked my neck, and stepped inside. "Hey folks," I called, keeping it friendly. "Marina's private. After hours, time to clear out." A woman on a pontoon looked offended. "We paid for access." "To who?" "Linda," yelled a guy halfway into the cooler. "She said we were on the list." "Cool," I said, deadpan. "You got scammed. That earned booze." One guy even puffed up like he wanted to fight. "Relax," I told him. "I'm not charging you anything. I'm telling you to leave." Quiet hours started 10 minutes ago, and a crowd like this isn't covered under the community's insurance. So if someone slips, drowns, or sets off a Roman candle and torches the pier, you're the one footing the bill. That caused a few uneasy looks. I pointed toward the parking lot. Public boat ramps a mile that way. They stay open late. But this Marina, you're done for the night. More groaning, some cussing, a couple whatever. Man mutters, but slowly, the strangers began shuffling off the boats, dragging their coolers past me toward their cars. When the last of them had stumbled through the gate, I kicked the rock aside, swung the gate closed, and pulled out the heavy-duty chain I'd brought for exactly this moment. I fed it through the iron bars, snapped the padlock shut, and put the key in my pocket. I just turned away when headlights flashed across me an unmistakable Subaru-shaped glare. Before I could step aside, Linda erupted out of the car. "What do you think you're doing?" She shrieked. "Open that." Open it now. My guests are still out on the water. You have no. Your guests, I said slowly, aren't residents. They're not on any HOA-approved list. They're customers. Which means this. I waved at the dock, is an unlicensed, uninsured commercial operation running out of a residential marina. Don't you dare accuse me. She didn't finish. Blue and red lights shimmered at the driveway. 2 sheriff cruisers pulled in, followed by a white county lake patrol truck. A man in a life jacket stepped out holding a clipboard. Linda went pale, then beet red. Wonderful, I said, calm as a still lake. Let's have a group discussion about common property. The next 20 minutes were like watching a slow-motion train wreck that only Linda was riding. The sheriff's deputy, a woman whose exhausted ponytail practically said, "I've seen every lakeside circus there is," took statements. I told her everything with evidence, that I owned Unit 302, with exclusive rights to Slip 12, that I'd repeatedly found random people on my boat, that there were weekly late-night parties, vandalism to the gate lock, and a missing after-hours sign, that I believed Linda was charging non-residents for marina access. Linda tried dismissive laughter. "Oh, this is just Caleb again," she told the deputy. "He thinks he owns the entire dock. Everything here belongs to the HOA. I'm the president. I manage amenity access. These are community building events." "For strangers," I replied, holding up my screen, "like this listing on the Mallard Cove Rentals Facebook group." I zoomed in on the post. "Weekend Marina package, $200 private gate code and boat slip at exclusive HOA Marina message Linda." For details, the lake patrol officer leaned in. "That you, ma'am?" Linda's smile went paper thin. "People exaggerate online. They're my personal guests. As president, I can designate no." The officer stopped her cold. "You can't. HOA leased these docks from the county. Therefore, private residential use only. No commercial activity." He flipped his clipboard around and tapped a highlighted section. "And right here it states, if the HOA runs or ignores any commercial marina operation, the county can revoke the permit entirely." Linda's jaw moved, but no sound came out. The deputy jumped in. "We've also received noise complaints from 3 different homeowners tonight. Plus we have photos of drinking on the fuel dock and fireworks on the pier. All clear violations of your own bylaws." One of the lingering guests spoke up nervously. "Look, we didn't know. Linda just told us to send a deposit and we'd get the gate code. Said the HOA benefits from the extra cash." The deputy very slowly turned back to Linda. "He paid that as HOA dues." "Venmo," the guy added sheepishly. "Sent to Linda," with a heart emoji. Then a 3rd cruiser rolled in. Another officer stepped out, spoke quietly with the lake patrol guy, and showed him something on a tablet. I caught Peace's prior complaint. Pattern. Possible misuse of funds. The deputy cleared her throat. "Mrs. Markham, I'll need you to give an official statement about how access is being granted and your involvement. You're not under arrest, but I strongly suggest contacting your association's attorney." Linda suddenly tried switching to outrage. "He locked an emergency exit," she shouted, pointing at me. "That gate is common property and he blocked it. That's who you should be citing." "Not an emergency exit?" the lake officer cut in. "It's a controlled access point. And per your lease, it must be secured after hours." He nodded toward my chain. "Honestly, that's the first responsible thing I've seen here tonight." The deputy looked at me. "If we need it open, you willing?" "Of course," I said. "Once this is settled on. Once the closed sign is back up. I'm not trapping anyone. Just keeping drunk strangers out." "We're fine with that," she replied. For the first time. Linda looked genuinely rattled, as if the script in her head had suddenly caught fire. "Caleb," she hissed quietly, "you are making a very powerful enemy." "When the board hears about this, funny you mention that," I said, voice level. "Because the board is about to hear from a lot more than just you." 2 weeks later, the emergency HOA meeting looked like a sold-out show. Every seat in the lakeside clubhouse was taken, people stood along the walls, and someone had wheeled in an ancient TV for document displays. The whole place buzzed with scandal-hungry energy. Linda sat at the front like a statue. flanked by two board members who looked like they'd rather dig holes than be there. Beside them sat the HOA's attorney, stone-faced, and a representative from the County Lake Authority. Near the back, quietly observant, was Deputy Ponytail. The attorney cleared his throat. We'll begin. The county has completed a preliminary investigation into allegations of commercial use of the Blue Heron Harbor Marina. Mr. Rios and several accused homeowners submitted documentation. The county will present their findings. The Lake Authority rep stepped forward. He clicked a remote. The TV lit up with the Facebook listing. For the past 6 months, he said, we have documented at least 14 separate cases of non-residents receiving unsupervised marina access. In multiple instances, payments were made directly to the HOA president, not to the association. Click. The screen shifted to Venmo screenshots. Marina weekend, $200 dock access. Thanks. Linda boat slip hookup, Blue Heron gasps echoed across the room. Click. Photos of overcrowded docks at midnight, fireworks bursting over the pier. A kid holding a sparkler horrifyingly close to a fuel hose. Your lease. He continued, states clearly that this is a private, non-commercial. Your text ends here. I'll continue seamlessly when you send part 3.
Marina. No renting out slips, no private access fees, no hosting outside events. Violating that lease gives us the authority to suspend your permit entirely and shut the whole operation down. He paused deliberately. Let that settle. We are this close. He pinched 2 fingers together to pull in the permit right now. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Someone in the audience muttered, we'd lose the whole marina. And then the rep added, clicking to the next slide. Up on the projector, a highlighted excerpt from the covenants glowed like a warning beacon. Marina slips are to be assigned solely to individual residents. No board member may personally benefit from common property or amenities. Any private charges for access constitute misappropriation of association assets. Every head turned toward Linda. The HOA attorney cleared his throat again, this time sounding like a hurt. Because of Mrs. Markham's conduct, he said carefully, our D&O insurance provider has concluded that any penalties or damages will not be covered. They classify this as intentional misconduct for personal benefit. From the 3rd row, I could see Linda's hand tightening around her pen until her knuckles were bone white. Therefore, he continued, the county requires immediate corrective actions to stop the marina from being closed. Linda Markham must resign from the board and all HOA positions effective today. She must reimburse every dollar she collected from marina access, plus a county penalty. The HOA must install stricter access controls, including after-hours locking and a resident key system. And for the next year, the county will perform unannounced inspections. Any additional violations, and the permit is revoked. He looked up, eyes firm. Non-compliance will trigger fines for both the HOA and Mrs. Markham personally, and almost certainly civil suits from affected owners. The room exploded. People who had never spoken a word at any meeting suddenly had decades of opinions. You made all of us legally exposed for your side gig. You claimed dues had to rise because of insurance. Linda, you told me I couldn't put a kayak rack on my balcony while you were over here running a marina speakeasy. A motion was shouted to remove Linda as president. Another motion immediately followed, banning her from any board or committee role permanently. Both passed with overwhelming support. She was the only no vote on the second. It was noted, then dismissed. When asked if she wished to speak, Linda rose, eyes glassy, and clung to her old talking point. I was increasing amenity value, she insisted sharply. It's community property. I was just maximizing community property. I spoke up from my seat, calm. Common property means shared responsibility and benefit. It doesn't mean you get to secretly charge rent like you own the place. A few people snorted. More nodded approvingly. Linda's mouth opened and closed without sound. The board officially accepted her resignation. The county rep gathered a signed compliance agreement. Deputy Ponytail silently handed me a copy of the report. The first line reading, findings, credible evidence of unauthorized commercial exploitation. When the meeting broke, Linda slipped out to the side door, avoiding eye contact, her signature visor and binder now looking strangely small. The attorney then announced the financial consequences. Linda Markham was obligated to return every dollar she collected from unauthorized Marina access over the last 6 months. After tallying transactions and testimony from non-residents, the total was $8,400. On top of that, the county imposed a $12,000 penalty for breaching the lease, bringing her personal responsibility to $20,400. The HOA would also seek repayment of legal fees, another estimated $6,000. Someone in the crowd asked if criminal charges were coming. The deputy stepped forward, voice steady. The district attorney is reviewing the matter. Possible charges include fraud, operating an unlicensed commercial facility, and misappropriation of association property. Each charge carries fines up to $10,000 and up to 2 years in jail. Linda, who had been standing stiffly by the exit, made a strangled, broken sound, half gasp, half sob. $26,000, she whispered, voice splintering. I don't have that kind of money. The attorney didn't soften. You should have thought about that before turning community assets into your personal business, Mrs. Markham. Linda's face collapsed. Her hands trembled around her binder. The visor that once felt like her crown now looked like a cheap costume accessory. You can't do this to me, she cried, her voice slipping into panic. This is my community. I've dedicated years to this place. You're ruining my life over a misunderstanding. The county rep cut in sharply. This wasn't a misunderstanding, ma'am. This was a deliberate, sustained abuse of your authority for profit. You jeopardized resident safety, violated county rules, and put the community's marina at risk. The consequences matched the harm. Linda's mouth moved, but no words formed. Her eyes darted desperately around the room, searching for sympathy. She found none. People who once bowed to her laminated directives now stared with irritation or outright hostility. The newly elected board president addressed the group. Payment arrangements will be managed through the association attorney. Mrs. Markham has 30 days to begin repayment, or legal action will start immediately. Linda sagged against the doorframe. Color drained from her face. The woman who once ruled the neighborhood with a visor and binder now looked beaten and fragile. I'll be ruined, she murmured to no one in particular. Completely ruined. The meeting dispersed. As residents filed out, I heard their murmurs. Did you see her expression? 26 grand in possible jail time. She thought she was invincible. Linda remained frozen in the doorway another moment, staring at the carpet. Then silently, she slipped outside. Her Subaru started with a rough cough. Through the glass, I could see her gripping the steering wheel, shoulders trembling. Deputy Ponytail walked past me toward her cruiser, catching my eye with a quick nod. Sometimes, she said quietly, it's the quiet people who actually fix things. Linda Markham drove away that night facing $26,000 in restitution and penalties, the possibility of criminal charges with potential jail time, and the ruin of the reputation she'd spent years building. The gate she treated like her private toll booth shut behind her, and she no longer had to